What's up, guys? This is Wenzes. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about the INFJ door slam. The INFJ door slam is a term that has been used for years, as long as this community exists. And it's pretty much you being in a position as an INFJ where you're in a relationship with somebody, and no matter what you try to make that relationship work, you're being kind to that person, you're being generous, you're being understanding, and that other person just keeps on taking. And you get to a point where you feel like, I just can't take it anymore. And from one day to the other, you kind of slam the door in that person's face and you cut them out of your life. See, most material I had read on this or videos I had watched when I first started, they all talked about this concept, and that's where it is. That's why it happens, and we don't have another choice. People don't understand why we're doing this, and they're taking advantage of us. And I understand where everybody's coming from. Like I've done situations like this. I have door slammed people like this. I have been a person who kept on giving, and I wasn't appreciated. I wasn't, like people didn't want to give anything back. And then I had to decide I have to cut that person out, or even worse, I have to be really like mean at some point. Not because I wanted to, but because like there was just so much like tensed up, it wouldn't even say aggression, but it's just like you kind of keep yourself small and you adapt to the other person. It's like you put yourself in a little butt just trying to make it good for the other person. And at some point, since that person doesn't appreciate it, it's like you open up and you kind of show that other person all your strong sides and all of those sides that actually make you who you are, but that are not going to be that great for the other person. So the other person is first off completely taken aback, doesn't understand where this is coming from, who you are. And at the same time, once you're like, do this, once you open up, you kind of don't have a connection with that person anymore, because that connection was based on the fact that you're always doing something for them. So this is the concept that I have read everywhere, like going this far. Maybe not explained like this, but in general, that's how far this topic has been taken. But for me, what has always been interesting to me is to understand, why do we get in situations like this? Can we change that pattern? Like if I keep on getting in situation where it's all about an INFJ door slam, and I have been that kind of person, then I cannot keep on telling myself, well, that other person is just not sensitive. People take advantage of me, although I'm trying to do everything right. Like those thoughts, they don't help me. They just don't. They might be true from a certain perspective, but in the end, what do all of those situations have in common? Me. I'm the one who has to do those INFJ door slams over and over again. And the INFJ door slam, don't get it twisted. This is not just something uncomfortable for the other person. Everybody of us who's done this knows how painful it is. Because once you do that, it's of course you reject that other person, but it's pretty much because you knew you have been rejected. You've tried your best and it just wasn't enough. And you hurt the other person, like you can feel how much you actually hurt them by door slamming, because up until that point, you focused so much on the other person. You're so connected to them on their world or in their sphere that you're so aware of what kind of pain you're causing them. It's just, it's in you. And so I don't think that the INFJ door slam is something we should just accept. Not just like what you're causing other people, but also what it does to us. And so, a lot of people ask me then, because I've talked about it with other INFJs before, and said, what are you saying? You're saying I should supposed to stay in that situation, not INFJ door slam somebody? That's exactly what they deserve. I really tried my best and I can't get out of it. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, feel bad about it? That's just what they get. That's not the point. I'm not saying stay in that situation and just keep enduring it. And I'm also not saying, you need to stop giving so much of yourself and, because people are not going to give you anything back. Like, I know that you have this urge to help, and I know that you kind of want to connect with other people, but it has to be something for the long term. So when I get into a new relationship, for example, or people that, where I've had the relationships for a long time, but I want them to change in a positive way, I have to act in a way that changes our dynamic or starts our dynamic in a way that it never ever gets to that INFJ door slam situation. it's something I want to avoid at all costs. Like I still have to do it, but it's like it never gets that bad. It never. I think the last time I kind of INFJ door slammed somebody was maybe in March of last year, and it was uncomfortable, but it wasn't as big as, things that have happened before. So with time, the INFJ door slams that I have done have gotten less. They've gotten less severe, and they don't have such an effect on my soul and on my well-being. And what has changed? It has changed that when I get into relationships, when I get into new situations, or when I want to make a situation better, I start telling people more of who I am. I mean, just think about it. Why does an INFJ door slam happen? Let's rewind and tell me if this is not true. It happens because you try to do something for another person, you're giving of yourself, you keep on giving, and that person doesn't appreciate it, or even puts you down, uses you, or just doesn't respect you, what you're all about. And you kind of try to make it easier for them. Like it's not always something that you say, well, I'm doing this in a way of, I want to help that person. Sometimes it's, I'm trying not to disturb the other person. Like that has been something that's really painful. I've seen other INFJs do it. I've seen me doing it in a way of, I'm keeping myself so small. There's nothing about me that should disturb you. I'm trying my best not to disturb you with my energy at all. And what happens, that person keeps on pushing you and keeps on pushing you, right? But that happens because no matter what you do, there's always an energy about you. And when you keep yourself small, people will still, they can tell that you're kind of doing that in order to do something for them, or you expect something in return, because you do. If you never ever expected something in return, you wouldn't have an INFJ door slam situation, ever. And that's just something we have to be aware of. Imagine just theoretically, right? If you were a person, you would have another one around you, and you said, well, in order for that person to feel good, I will keep myself small. And I don't expect anything in return. Then you would just keep going like this your entire life, and you would never snap at that person, ever. Because you said, well, I want to stay small because of me. I'm not doing that because I want you to feel better. But if you're in a situation like this and it gets to an INFJ door slam, it's because you have thought so far, that person will see what I'm doing for them. That person will see how much I'm sacrificing for them. And they will appreciate it or respect me, or just give me any kind of benefit of the doubt, or whatever it is. And because that doesn't happen, we say, now I have to break free. But in both cases, first off, keeping small is something that you have to constantly do. It's not good. It's not comfortable. And then you're doing it because you want that other person to appreciate what is happening, or to be in any kind of way thankful. And people, if they're not aware of what you're doing for them, that's even worse. And that's also another thing. People are not aware that you're doing that actually for them, right? So the whole thing that I did, and that has changed my life, is just completely from the beginning, not sacrifice myself one tiny bit for others. Please listen to what I'm saying. I'm not saying do not make compromises. Do not help others. This is not about being selfish. This is about giving this relationship the best chance it has for longevity, right? The more honest I am about who I am and what I'm willing to compromise, the better, right? So let's say I'm a person who has very strong opinions on, personal growth, so to say. And there's a person who never wants to hear anything about personal growth because that makes them aware of what is not right with them, what they're suffering from inside. So you have two possibilities. You can either say, well, I'm not going to talk about personal development so that person doesn't feel bad about themselves. If you choose that kind of relationship, after a while, you will realize that you've been neglecting this part of you that's so important to you in order to be good for that other person. That's back to the analogy of the full cup. I've talked about it before, but I'll say it again because it's so important. In order for us to grow and to be able to give out energy without expecting anything in return, we have to fill ourselves up, our cup up full of energy, and then everything that's overflowing, that's what we're giving. But if you're, and for example, let's say personal development is that for you. You like to share that, you like to get feedback, you like to see that you're helping people with that because you love talking about it from the inside, right? That's like a positive flow. But if you say, well, I'm not going to talk about personal development because that person is suffering from this, like they're aware of what's, it just kind of hurts them just you being yourself. You keep making that cup smaller and smaller. Like not that cup, but the water and the energy in the cup. And the less energy you have, the less you can actually give to that person. And there's no way for you to keep on filling yourself up, because the only way theoretically that could happen is if that person say, oh, you're doing this great thing for me, I'm just going to give you so much energy. That's not going to happen because that person doesn't know. That person doesn't know that you're not being yourself because of them. And even if you would tell them, they would say, so why would you not be yourself? Right? So that relationship sooner or later will break down because you just get depleted of your energy over and over again. And that person, like what? You're actually just not telling your truth. That's what happens. You're actually just not being yourself and telling your truth. You're saying, I'm going to pretend to be somebody else so that person stays in my life. Because that's what it is, right? If you were somebody who's so disturbing in their own energy that person couldn't be with you because they don't want to look at their own problems, they would just go away. And that's what we're scared of. But as I said, the energy gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And at some point, this will break down because either you get to a point where you feel like now it's time to do the INFJ door slam because I've tried so much. I've tried to sacrifice myself so much and that person doesn't appreciate it. You break free. You tell them who you are and you slam the door in their face and said, I can't do this anymore. I cannot pretend to live by your rules anymore. That's what the INFJ door slam is about. So that is the kind of relationship I used to have. And not with one person, but like with several. And that's just a pattern I kept on repeating. And now what I do is I say, I don't start any new relationships. I don't care if it's like work. I don't care if it's like a romantic relationship, if it's friends, if it's family. Not even about starting. Like I've changed dynamics. I don't have relationships in my life where I have to, pretend I'm somebody that I'm not. We always do compromises. There's always a way that you connect with one person on particular, things you have in common with somebody else, something else, right? But I still want like the main part of me to be like there all the time, that I never have to keep myself small. I want to keep that cup up, full of it. And so same situation, let's say there's a person who would look at themselves and realize, I don't like the energy about personal development because that actually forces me to look into what's not good with me and what I don't like about myself, then that's just their choice. I'm still gonna I believe in personal development. This is important to me. I talk about it. I don't need you to participate in it, but I need you to accept that, right? I'm not gonna pretend I'm somebody else. I'm not gonna pretend that I have different values. This is what's important to me, and how you react on it, that's your choice. But I'm not going to make that decision for you by keeping myself small, because I already know in the back of my mind, if I would be myself, that person would, go away. Let them do that. There are two things that happen there, okay? The one thing is that person, first off, takes a step back and realizes, I can't deal with this. This is too much for me. And they come back around because they see you being yourself and you believing in these things. That's still something that they benefit from, that they like about you. And they like it about you not because you're doing it for them, but because you're doing it for you and you're just being you. And that person loves, likes, appreciates you being you for you, right? That's the one thing that happens. The other thing that can happen is for that person to say, that energy is just too disturbing for me. I don't want to face those things. I'm not in a position. I don't want to look in that direction. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's not like everybody has to look into personal development. That's just my opinion, right? That's just what I like. But if there are people who tell me, you don't know anything about the political system in your city, right? And that's so important to them. And they say, if you want to be part of my life, you have to care about those things. If I had somebody like that in my life, and I really that's not my thing, I'm really gonna go and look and do something else if that person says that's the only way we could have a friendship, for example. So, I'm not here to judge if people say they don't want to look into personal development. That's okay. Like that's a decision for them to make. But I'm not gonna make that decision for them. I'm being myself and I'm being it as much as I can. So everybody who stays in a relationship with me does it while I'm not sacrificing who I am. And if you're not sacrificing who you are, you never have to do the INFJ door slam, ever. As I said, it happened to me like last year, like 12 months ago, and I had neglected parts of me. This is not something you stop from one day to the other, but you can always go in a direction where it makes it less, where you're being more and more of yourself. You're being authentic with everybody who comes into your life. And so from the beginning, you actually give this relationship a chance for longevity. And you do not give it a chance for longevity if you're sacrificing who you are in order to make that person feel better about themselves. This is just a short-term solution, and it will lead to INFJ door slams more than once. I hope that helped you. Let me know in the comments what kind of relationships you've had with INFJ door slam, but what kind of experiences you had with the INFJ door slam. A lot of people look in the comments, so you can share and just get it off your chest and maybe help each other. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you want me to help you with certain situations in your life, check out the link on one-on-one coaching in the description. Like always, guys, I wish you a wonderful day, and I talk to you next time. Bye.